You can see Umno and Bersatu as two brothers going after the same love interest. How can the two brothers coexist peacefully? Unless they strike out a deal of demarcating their interests. Which means that if one party decide they agree on certain geographical division of labor, one party decide to become a southern party, the other one become a northern party, so to speak, then you probably can find a solution. Or you have a different electoral system that allow the two parties to sort out their competitions, which we don't. So these two parties are going to fight, first of all, at all grassroots levels of all the elected officers, MPs and ADUN. And yes, I mean, for all the seats, especially, I mean, that the part that's hardest for them to strike a deal are those who have jumped from UMNO to Bersatu. 15 MPs, that's the main part. How are you going to deal with that? Take the 15 out, Bersatu would be left with 16. It will be a minor party. And no, at the moment it's 31. At the moment in PN, it's 38 from, no, 38 or 37? 38, right? Because one drop after Greek. So it's 38. So it's currently 38 from UMNO and 31 from Bersatu. If UMNO can get back all the 15 seats, Bersatu count will start from 16. And there's not necessarily there would be much chance of Bersatu winning more seats from the opposition side. So that's mean Muhyiddin would say bye-bye to his prime ministership. The only way for Muhyiddin to survive is to take seats from UMNO. But UMNO learned its lesson in Sabah. UMNO lost 5 MPs and 8 ADUNs to Bersatu. In the state election, UMNO conceded 6 out of the 8 seats to UMNO and took back only 2. But Bersatu insists that its candidates were to be the chief minister to replicate the pattern of how Bersatu asking for more seats, more jobs than its seats warrant at the federal level. To make the situation worse, in Sabah, UMNO found that 6 of its own seats encountered multi-corner from Bersatu's Kadasan Dusun sidekick. That's mean PBS or Star. And UMNO won only 1 out of 6. So that is a strong message to everyone in UMNO that if Bersatu were to survive, Bersatu would not stay on with would not be satisfied with his own size. Ambitious leaders like Asmin or Hamza, when they took over, they would want to finish UMNO. Of course, that does not necessarily mean the end of career for UMNO politicians. They can jump to Bersatu, but the difference is you jump over, you start queuing at the back of the long queue. If you are here, you finish off Bersatu. If they jump back, they will be at the back of your queue. So it served UMNO interest to destroy Bersatu. It was the same reason that why after the formations of Barisan Nasional in 1974, UMNO would marginalize PAS in Kelantan. Because you cannot have two tigers on the same mountain. The best strategy that can come out from pro-Bersatu UMNO faction is to have a deputy prime minister from UMNO. But that's not going to work for UMNO warlords because they have learned the lessons that Muhyiddin wants to use that way to fracture their party. So unless that Muhyiddin would go so far and say, we let you choose who your deputy prime minister is, UMNO would not take that as a real deal. But for Muhyiddin to let UMNO choose its choice of deputy prime minister, he is then anointing his successor. Because in the next election, you know who is the next prime minister. So there is a fundamental conflict between Bersatu and UMNO. UMNO cannot agree whether or not to work with PAS or with PH. That's the reason why it hasn't pulled out from the government. But yes, because just as UMNO teased PAS of playing in two pawns, UMNO to some extent also play in two pawns. Maybe not the whole UMNO, but some of its leaders are playing in two pawns as well. And for realistic reason. So coming back to that situation we are looking at, you would have a situations that for UMNO may not have an internal consensus of whether to stick with PAS or slowly move towards PH, slowly. But most of them agree that it needs to sever its tie with UMNO. But with Bersatu, sorry. So most of them would agree that UMNO needs to sever its tie with Bersatu. So the only difference is after severing that tie, would UMNO be big enough to surviving on its own? If not, who would it team up to? And the tricky part is that how do you get more seats in the middle? You can't get it with PAS. If you're going to leave seats in a lot of you're going to leave many Malay majority seats to UMNO and to PAS, and you're going to take more of the mixed seats. You are taking a big risk. Someday someone else would come from that end and finish off UMNO, right? So UMNO would want to keep the majority seats, and this is where the ultimate contradiction with PAS lies.